The lights were too bright. They were designed that way, not for comfort, not for clarity, but for control. High above the circular stage, rows of white light burned without shadow. Every corner was visible, every movement clear. No place to hide, no place to rest your eyes. Keeler then adjusted the collar of his formal coat for the third time. It still felt tight. He stood near the edge of the stage, holding a thin tablet in one hand. His other hand stayed behind his back, fingers pressed together to stop the small shaking. The crowd was already filling the hall, thousands of them, soft-skinned, long-necked, dressed in bright ceremonial colors. They spoke in low waves of sound, like a calm ocean, excited, waiting. Keeler forced a small smile. "This will go smoothly," he said, though no one had asked. Behind him, 2 security officers stood silent. Their armor reflected the harsh light above. Both of them were watching the central gate, the heavy gate, still closed. Keeler looked at it again, then quickly looked away. "Remember," he said, turning slightly toward the officers, "this is a controlled presentation. There is no risk." Neither officer responded. That made his throat feel dry. He turned back to the stage and checked the time. 3 minutes. Only 3 minutes before the live broadcast would begin across the entire sector. He swallowed. "It's just a performance," he whispered to himself. But even he didn't believe that. Far below the stage, behind layers of reinforced walls, the prisoner stood alone. No light here, only a narrow strip above, where cold white glow slipped through a small opening, enough to see shapes, not enough to feel safe. The chains were not heavy. That was the first strange thing. They were thin, precise, designed not to restrict strength, but to monitor movement. Every small shift sent quiet signals through the metal. The prisoner understood that. He did not test them. He did not move at all. He stood in the center of the room, hands relaxed at his sides, his head slightly lowered, his breathing slow, not tired, not afraid, just still. A guard watched him through the glass. "Why does it react?" the guard asked. Another voice answered from behind. "Because it knows." The first guard frowned. "Knows what?" "That this is not a cage." A pause. "It's a stage." Above, the music began, soft at first, then rising. A signal. The audience quieted. Thousands of voices fading into silence within seconds. Keeler stepped forward. His smile returned, more practiced this time. "Citizens," he began. His voice carried smoothly across the hall. "Today, we present something rare." A ripple moved through the crowd. Something dangerous. That word landed perfectly. A few leaned forward. A few laughed. Keeler raised his hand slightly. "You have heard the stories," he continued. "Creatures from a distant world. A death world. A species shaped by violence, survival, and chaos." Now the crowd reacted. Soft amusement. Curiosity. No fear. Not real fear. They called themselves humans. A few scatter claps. Someone whistled. Keeler smiled wider. "Yes, I see many of you are already familiar with the myths." He turned, slowly, pointing toward the massive gate behind him. "Today, we bring you something even better than stories." The music stopped. Silence returned. "We bring you one." Below, the lock disengaged. A soft sound. Clean. The prisoner lifted his head slightly. Just enough to notice. Nothing more. The door slid open. Light poured in. Bright. Harsh. It touched his face, but he did not react. "Move," a voice ordered. The prisoner looked forward, then stepped. One step. Chains followed with a quiet metallic whisper. He walked without resistance. Not slow, not fast, just steady, as if he had already accepted where he was going. Above, Keeler's heartbeat grew louder in his ears. He kept smiling. He had practiced this moment. Every line, every pause, everything was under control. It had to be. "Observe closely," he said, raising his voice slightly. "This specimen is classified as one of the most dangerous individuals recovered from Earth." Recovered, such a clean word, much better than captured. The gate began to open, slowly, heavy metal sliding apart with deep, echoing sound. The audience leaned forward. Even the guards shifted slightly. Keeler did not move. He kept his eyes on the opening, on the darkness behind it. For a moment, nothing came out, just darkness. Then, a shape, a figure stepping into the light. chains glinting softly, simple clothing, no armor, no weapons, no visible threat. The audience hesitated. This was not what they expected. Keeler felt it immediately. That small drop in energy, that quiet confusion. He stepped forward quickly. "Do not be misled by appearance," he said smoothly. "This being has survived conditions that would end most known life within minutes." The figure stopped at the center of the stage. Still, head slightly lowered, not looking at anyone, not reacting to the lights, not reacting to crowd, just standing there. Keeler walked slowly around him, keeping a careful distance. "Notice the lack of response," he said. "Primitive behavior, limited awareness." A few in the audience laughed again. That helped. Good. Control was returning. Keeler stopped in front of the prisoner. Close now. Close enough to see his face clearly. Human. Simple. No visible fear. No visible anger. That was unexpected. Keeler tilted his head slightly. "Can you understand me?" he asked, voice calm, almost playful. No response. "Of course not," Keeler said lightly, turning back toward the audience. "Communication is limited." More soft laughter, but weaker this time. Something felt off. Keeler felt it again. That small discomfort. He pushed it away. "This individual," he continued, "was selected for demonstration because of its classification. High-threat survivalist. Extreme adaptability. History of..." He stopped, not because he forgot the line, but because the human had lifted his head, slowly, deliberately, and for the first time, he looked at someone. Not the crowd, not the lights, not the guards. He looked at Keeler, directly. Keeler froze for half a second. Just half, but it was enough. There was something in that look. Not anger, not fear, recognition. As if the human already understood everything. Keeler forced a small laugh. "Interesting," he said, stepping back slightly. "A reaction." The audience leaned forward again. Curiosity returned. Good. This was still under control. Keeler lifted his tablet. "Now, we will begin a simple interaction test." A sound interrupted him. Soft, almost nothing, but it came from beneath the stage. A vibration. So light most would miss it, but Keeler felt it through his feet. He paused. The guards noticed it too. One of them shifted position. The human's eyes moved. Not randomly, not confused. He looked down, directly at the floor, at the exact point where the vibration came from. Then he looked back at Keeler, and for the first time, he spoke. His voice was low. "Calm, clear. You need to clear this room." The entire hall went silent. No translation delay. No confusion. Perfect understanding. Keeler blinked, then laughed, loud enough to cover the tension. "Remarkable," he said. "It has learned basic phrases." Some in the audience laughed again. Relieved. Yes, this was still a show. It had to be. Keeler stepped closer again. "Repeat that," he said, smiling. The human did not smile. He did not move. "You don't have much time," he said. Same calm tone, same steady voice. No fear, no performance, just certainty. The vibration came again, stronger this time. A few in the front rows noticed. A few turned their heads. Keeler's smile weakened, just slightly. He leaned in closer, lowered his voice. "What are you trying to do?" he whispered. The human held his gaze. "I'm trying to stop you from killing them." Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable, real, and for the first time, Keeler then felt something he had not planned for. Not embarrassment, not confusion. Panic. Keeler's smile died slowly, not in one moment. It faded from his face like light leaving a room. The human had not raised his voice. He had not threatened anyone. He had not pulled against the chains. That made it worse, because panic usually had a sound. This had none, only the low vibration under the stage. Again, this time, the front row felt it clearly. A few guests looked down at their feet. One old councilwoman lifted the edge of her long robe as if something might crawl from the floor. Keeler turned his head toward the nearest security officer, scanned the lower platform. He said quietly. The officer touched the side of his helmet. A second passed. Then another. The officer's body became stiff. Keeler saw it. "What?" Keeler whispered. The officer did not answer at first. His voice finally came through the helmet speaker, thin and shaken. There's a device under the center stage. Keeler's stomach turned cold. The crowd did not know yet. Not fully. They only knew something was wrong. Thousands of eyes watched the stage. The live broadcast drone still hovered in the air, their blue lenses recording every breath. Keeler looked at the human. The human looked back. No pride, no satisfaction, no anger, just waiting. "You knew," Keeler said. "I heard it," the human answered. Keeler stared at him. "Heard it." The human lowered his eyes to the polished floor. Bad balance in the rotation core. Cheap casing. Someone hit it fast. Keeler's hand tightened around the tablet. The device beneath them gave another soft pulse. This one was followed by a faint clicking sound. A few people screamed. That was all it took. Fear moved to the hall like fire through dry grass. The first rows began to stand. The middle rows pushed backward. Guards shouted for order, but their voices disappeared under the rising noise. Keeler turned toward the crowd. "Remain calm," he shouted. No one listened. The joke had ended. Now the stage belonged to fear. The human turned his head slightly, studying the room. Entrances, guards, floor panels, drone pads, crowd movement. Then he lifted both hands a little. The chains followed. "Unlock these," he said. Keeler almost laughed, but his throat would not let him. "You expect me to free you?" "No," the human said. "I expect you to choose." Keeler looked at the crowd. Children were crying in the upper section. A young usher had fallen near the aisle. People were stepping over him. One of the live drones crashed into a light rail and sparked. The officer near Keeler spoke again. "Device is active. Timer unknown. Remote trigger possible." Keeler felt the whole hall spinning around him. This was his event, his stage, his idea. Invite the most dangerous human alive. Make the audience laugh. Show them Earth was not a legend anymore. Make the sector remember Keeler Ven's name. And now everyone might die under his lights. He turned back to the human. "Were you?" The human's answer was simple. Someone who had seen bombs before. Keeler stared at him for one breath longer. Then he looked at the guard. "Open them." The guard hesitated. "Sir." "Open them." The guard stepped forward and pressed a control against the chain lock. The metal clicked. The chains dropped from a human's wrists and hit the stage floor. The sound was not loud, but somehow everyone near the stage heard it. The human rubbed one wrist once, not because it hurt, almost like checking if his hand still belonged to him. Then he moved, and all the quiet in him vanished, not into rage, into purpose. He crossed the stage fast, dropped to one knee, and pressed his ear against the floor. Keeler followed him without thinking. "What do you need?" "Clear the first 6 rows." Slowly, not running. Keeler turned to the guards. "You heard him." The guards began moving people from the front, but the crowd was already breaking into disorder. The human looked up at Keeler. "Use the broadcast." Keeler blinked. "What?" "Your face is on every screen in the room. Stop acting like a host. Start acting like a person." Those words struck harder than any insult. Keeler looked at his tablet with shaking fingers. He opened the main broadcast feed. His face appeared across the giant wall screens. For once, he had no script. His voice came out rough. "Citizens, listen to me." The crowd still moved. He swallowed. "I lied to you. That stopped some of them. I told you this was controlled. It is not. There's a device under this stage. If you run, more people fall. If you push, children will be crushed. Move from the front rows first. Follow the guards. Do not rush." The hall changed. Not calm, but less blind. Fear had been given shape. Orders had been given meaning. People began moving in lines. The human tore open a side panel near the floor with his bare hands. Keeler stared. The metal panel bent like soft bark. Behind it was darkness, wires, and a narrow maintenance crawl space. The human pushed his arm inside. A sharp spark bit his hand. He did not pull back. Keeler saw red on his fingers. "Can you stop it?" Keeler asked. The human's voice came from near the floor. Maybe. I'm not a magician." The answer was so plain that Keeler almost broke. Another pulse shook the stage. This time the lights flickered. High above them, one of the heavy white lamps swung loose. The human looked up. Down. He grabbed Keeler by the coat and threw him hard across the stage. The lamp fell. It smashed exactly where Keeler had been standing. Glass burst across the floor. The audience screamed again. Keeler landed badly on his side, pain cutting through his ribs. When he looked up, the human was already back at the panel. No speech, no anger, no demand for thanks. Just work. Keeler crawled toward him. You saved me. The human did not look at him. Don't make it special. Under the stage, the device began to hum. Not softly now, loud enough that the microphones picked it up. A deep, hungry sound. The guard shouted from across the stage. Evacuation at 40%. The human's jaw tightened. Too slow. What happens if it goes off? Keeler asked. The human pulled 2 wires apart, then stopped. If it is what I think it is, the blast goes upward first. Stage becomes a blade. Front rows die. Roof supports fail. Everyone else gets trapped. Keeler closed his eyes for half a second. All those people, all those laughing faces, he had brought them here. He opened his eyes. What can I do? The human finally looked at him. Hold this. He placed a small hot metal cylinder in Keeler's hands. Keeler almost dropped it. It's burning. Yes. What is it? Trigger spine. Keeler went pale. The human held his gaze. If your hand moves, it may wake the secondary charge. Keeler stopped breathing. The human turned back to the wires. For the first time in his life, Keeler stood perfectly still for a reason that was not performance. Sweat ran down his neck. The cylinder burned his palms. The crowd continued moving out. Guards shouted. Children cried. Somewhere, someone prayed in a language Keeler did not know. The human worked inside the panel with one hand. His injured hand shook once. Only once. Keeler noticed. You are hurt. Yes. Can you still? Quiet. Keeler went quiet. The hum grew sharper. The human pulled a flat black box from the crawl space. It was ugly, rough, not military, built from stolen parts and hate. A message was scratched into the side in alien script. Keeler read it and felt sick. For the ones who laughed while our colonies burned. This was not random. Someone had planned the attack. For a crowded broadcast. The human saw the message too. His face did not change. Keeler whispered. They wanted the whole sector to watch us die. The human removed a small cover from the device. No, he said. They wanted the whole sector to watch you panic. Keeler looked at him. The words cut deep because they were true. Panic was the real weapon. The bomb was only the loudest part. The human reached inside the device. A red light began blinking faster. The guard shouted again. 60% evacuated. The human shook his head. Not enough. Keeler's hands were shaking now. The cylinder burned worse. I can't hold it. Yes, you can. I can't. The human looked at him again. His voice lowered. You put me on the stage to prove I was a beast. Keeler's eyes filled with shame. Yes. Then prove you are not one. Keeler closed his fingers tighter around the burning metal. A small sound escaped him, but he did not let go. The human gave a single nod. Then he broke the device. Not carefully, not gently. He tore the timing cord from the black box and crushed it against the stage floor with his heel. The red light stopped. For one beautiful second, there was silence. Then the secondary charge woke. A sharp beep. The human's eyes moved fast. He grabbed the black box, turned, and ran toward the open center lift. Keeler shouted, What are you doing? The human did not answer. He jumped down through the maintenance opening beneath the stage. Keeler rushed forward. Below, the human dropped into the dark service shaft with the device in his arms. There was no time. Keeler heard his voice from below. Close the lift. Keeler froze. No. Close it. The guard reached the control panel. Keeler grabbed his arm. Wait! The human looked up from the darkness. For the first time, there was emotion in his face. Not fear, not anger. Urgency. Close it, Keeler. He knew his name. Keeler did not know why that broke him. Maybe because he had never asked the humans. The beeping became a scream. The guard slammed the control. The heavy center lift sealed shut. 1 second. 2. 3. The explosion hit below the stage. The floor jumped. A deep sound rolled through the hall like a giant heartbeat. The lights died. For a moment, everything was black. Then emergency red lamps came alive. Dust floated in the air. People coughed. Someone cried. But the roof still stood. The front rows still stood. The hall was damaged, but alive. Keeler lay on the stage, ears ringing, hands bleeding from the burned cylinder. He pushed himself up. The center lift was twisted, blackened, and smoking at the edges. "No!" he whispered. He crawled toward it. "No, no, no!" The guards tried to stop him. He pushed them away. "Open it!" The control panel sparked uselessly. "Open it!" No one moved fast enough. Keeler grabbed a broken piece of metal and began hitting the edge of the lift door like a madman. Again, again, again. Then a sound came from beneath. One knock. Weak, but real. Keeler stopped. Everyone near the stage stopped. Another knock. The guards rushed forward. Together, they forced tools into the warp seam. The metal screamed as it bent open. Smoke rolled out. A hand appeared first. Burned, bleeding, alive. The human pulled himself up slowly. His clothes were torn. One side of his face was cut. He looked like he should have fallen and never stood again. But he stood, unsteady, breathing hard. The hall watched him, not laughing now, not whispering, not smiling. The human looked around at the survivors, then at Keeler. Keeler could not speak. The human gave him the burned remains of the black device. "Your real enemy was not on the stage," he said. Keeler took it with shaking hands. "What is your name?" he asked. The human looked tired, very tired. "Elias Marr." Keeler lowered his head, not as a host, not as a performer, as someone who finally understood shame. "Elias Marr," he said, voice breaking through the damaged speakers. "Save this hall." The broadcast drone still floated, damaged but recording. Across the sector, billions watched the stage. The alien crowd slowly stood. No cheers came at first, only silence. Then one person in the front row lowered their head, then another, then hundreds, then thousands. A hall built for mockery became quiet with respect. Elias did not smile. He only looked at the lights above him, the same lights that had been made to expose him. Now they showed everyone else. Keeler turned toward the cameras. His voice was no longer smooth. "Today, we invited a man as a joke," he said. He answered as a guardian. No one laughed. No one ever used that show again. The hall was later rebuilt, but the stage was not. They left the center broken. A dark circle on the floor. A reminder, not of the bomb, not of panic, but of the day a prisoner refused to become a monster, even when the whole galaxy had paid to see one. 3 days after the broadcast, no one in the sector laughed at humans anymore. Not openly, not in the halls, not in the markets, not even in the private rooms where powerful people usually spoke without fear. The video had spread too far. Elias Marr standing under white lights. Elias Marr warning them. Elias Marr running into the service shaft with the bomb in his arms. And then, that last moment, the wounded human climbing out of smoke while the crowd watched in silence. Every screen replayed it. Every news voice argued over it. Some called him a hero. Some called him a danger. Some said the whole event proved humans were still too powerful to be trusted. But Keeler Van heard only one sentence in his head. "Prove you are not one." He sat alone inside the investigation chamber, his burned hands wrapped in white medical cloth. Across from him, 3 high inquiry officials watched him like he was the criminal. Maybe he was, not the bomber, but something close. He had built the stage. He had sold the fear. He had turned a living man into entertainment. Director Van, one official said, "Did you know the prisoner could understand our language?" Keeler looked down. "No." "Did you know he had military bomb training?" "No." "Did you know there was a security weakness under your own stage?" Keeler closed his eyes. "No." The official leaned forward. "Then what did you know?" Keeler did not answer quickly. That was the problem. He had known many things. He had known the audience wanted cruelty dressed as education. He had known the word Death Worlder would sell. He had known the prisoner had been taken from Earth border space without a fair hearing. He had known the chains were not there for safety. They were there for theater. Finally, Keeler said, "I knew people watch." The chamber went quiet. The official's face hardened. "That is not a defense." "I know." Before they could ask more, the door opened. A guard entered and whispered something to the nearest official. The official frowned, then looked at Keeler. Elias Marr's awake. Keeler stood at once. Pain shot through his side, but he ignored it. "I want to see him." "That is not your choice." Keeler's voice lowered. No, but it should be his. Elias woke in a medical room with no windows. He hated that first. No windows meant no exits. No exits meant trust had to be given to walls. He did not like giving trust to walls. A soft machine pulsed beside him. His left arm was wrapped from wrist to shoulder. His ribs hurt when he breathed. One eye opened slower than the other. A medic stood near the door. She was small, blue-skinned, and very still. When Elias turned his head, she flinched. He noticed. He always noticed. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. The medic looked ashamed of her own fear. "I know." "No," Elias said softly. "You hope." She did not argue. That made him respect her a little. A few minutes later, Keeler entered. No cameras, no lights, no music. For once, he looked smaller than his title. Elias watched him walk in. Keeler stopped at the foot of the bed. "I am sorry," he said. Elias waited. Keeler swallowed. "I used you. I made you a thing. I wanted them to laugh at you." "Yes," Elias said. The simple answer hit harder than anger. Keeler's eyes dropped. "I will testify. I will tell them everything. The illegal transfer, the staging, the false threat labels." Elias shifted slightly, hiding the pain. "Good." Keeler looked up. "That is all. What else do you want? I thought you would hate me." Elias looked at the ceiling. "I'm too tired to give you that much." Keeler had no answer. After a moment, Elias said, "Who planted it?" Keeler's face changed. "The investigation says it was a colony revenge cell. Their worlds were damaged in the border wars." Elias turned his head. "And do you believe that?" Keeler hesitated. "No." Elias watched him carefully. Keeler stepped closer and lowered his voice. The device was too close to the center support. The timing matched the broadcast schedule perfectly. Someone had access before the public arrived. "Inside help?" "Yes." "Why?" Keeler's throat tightened. "To make fear useful." Elias understood. Fear was easy to sell. Fear bought weapons. Fear gave weak leaders strong voices. Fear made people accept cages, raids, and quiet disappearances. He had seen it on Earth too. Different flags. Same sickness. Who benefits? Elias asked. Keeler looked toward the door. The security ministry. The medic turned pale. Elias slowly sat up. Pain burned through his chest, but his mind cleared. "They wanted me there." Keeler nodded. "If you died, humans become monsters again. If you survived and fought, humans become monsters again. If the crowd died, humans become monsters forever." Elias gave a tired, bitter breath. "So I ruined their script." "Yes." For the first time, Keeler almost smiled. Not with joy, with disbelief. "You ruined everyone's script." That night, the security ministry came for Elias. They came quietly. 6 officers. No heavy boots. No public order. No announcement. Just a door opening at the wrong hour. Elias was already awake. He had pulled the needle from his arm 10 minutes earlier. The medic stood between him and the officers. Her hand was shaking, but she stood there. "You cannot move him," she said. "He is under medical protection." The lead officer did not look at her. "He is an detainee. He is a patient. He is evidence." From the bed, Elias said, "That word again." The officers turned. Elias was standing now, one hand pressed against his ribs. He looked weak. That made them brave. The lead officer raised a restraint tool. "Sit down, human." Elias looked at the medic. "Step aside." She shook her head. "They'll take you." "Yes." "They'll kill you." "Maybe." "Then why?" Elias looked at the officers. "Because if I fight in this room, they get what they came for." The medic's eyes filled with helpless anger. Elias stepped forward. The officer locked restraints around his wrists. This time, the chains were heavier. The lead officer leaned close. "You should have stayed in your cage." Elias looked at him calmly. "I was never good at that." They took him to the old broadcast hall. That was their mistake. They thought the place was empty, but places remember. The broken stage still had repair crews. Reporters still waited outside the lock gates. Citizens still came to leave flowers near the walls. And Keeler Van had expected this. When the ministry officers dragged Elias through the rear entrance, the emergency lights came on, then the screens, then the cameras. Every hidden repair drone in the hall opened its eye. Keeler's voice came through the speakers. Minister Hovel, your officers are now live. The lead officer froze. Across the sector, screens interrupted their normal feeds. The same hall appeared again. The same broken circle. The same human in chains. But this time, the crowd was not laughing. Keeler stepped from the shadows with inquiry officials behind him. His hands were still bandaged. His face was pale, but his voice did not shake. You used my stage once, Keeler said. You do not get to use it again. The lead officer reached for his weapon. Elias moved first, not violently. Precisely, he stepped into the officer's space, turned his chained wrists, and trapped the weapon hand against the officer's own chest. No strike, no broken bone, just control. The other officers raised their weapons. Elias did not move. The cameras watched. The sector watched. Keeler spoke again. Lower them, or let every citizen see what you plan to do to the man who saved their children. For a long second, no one breathed. Then one officer lowered his weapon. Then another. Then all of them. The lead officer looked at Elias with pure hatred. Elias only said, "You needed me to be a monster." He released the man's hand. "I'm not helping you." The inquiry officials arrested the officers on live broadcast. No cheering came. This was not a victory that made people happy. It was a kind that made them quiet, because now they had to admit the monster had not come from Earth. It had worn their own uniform. Weeks later, Elias stood at the edge of a small transport dock. No lights, no stage, no crowd, only a quiet ship waiting to take him home. Keeler stood beside him. For a while, neither spoke. Then Keeler said, "They want you to stay. Some want you as an advisor. Some want you as a symbol." Elias looked at the ship. "I've been a symbol before. And it never ends well for the symbol." Keeler nodded slowly. "I understand." Elias glanced at him. "No, you're learning." Keeler accepted that. A soft wind moved across the dock. Far below, the city lights shone like small, careful stars. Keeler held out a small object. Elias looked at it. It was a broken chain lock from the stage. Clean, sealed in clear glass. "I thought you should have it," Keeler said. Elias did not take it. "No." Keeler looked confused. Elias nodded toward the city. "Put it where they can see it." "In the hall?" "In the floor." Keeler understood. The broken circle. The broken stage. The place where laughter had died. "Yes," he said. "I will." Elias stepped toward the ship. Before entering, he turned once. "Keeler." "Yes." "Next time your people are afraid of something." Keeler waited. Elias's voice stayed calm. "Don't build a stage around it." Then he walked into the transport. The doors closed. The ship lifted without ceremony. No grand music. No final speech. Just a quiet departure into the dark. Months later, the hall reopened. There was no entertainment there anymore. No fear shows. No prisoner displays. At the center of the floor, under clear glass, lay the broken chain lock. Beside it were simple words. They invited him as a joke. He left as a reason we changed. And every child who visited asked the same question. Was he really dangerous? The guides always answered carefully. Yes. Then they looked at the broken stage. But not in the way they wanted him to be. Earth did not welcome Elias Mar with flags. That was not Earth's way anymore. The transport landed before sunrise on a quiet military field near the old northern coast. The sky was pale gray. The air smelled of rain and salt. Elias stepped down alone. No cameras, no crowd, only 3 officers, 1 doctor, and an old woman waiting near the landing lights. The old woman wore a dark coat. Her hair was white. Her back was straight. Elias stopped when he saw her. For the first time in many months, his face changed. "Captain Mar," one officer began. The old woman raised one hand. The officer went silent. She walked toward Elias slowly, not because she was weak, because she wanted him to see every step. Elias stood still. The woman stopped in front of him. For a moment, neither moved. Then she slapped him, not hard enough to hurt, hard enough to say he had made her afraid. Elias accepted it. Then she hugged him. His mother did not cry loudly. She only held him with both hands buried in the back of his coat, like he might disappear again as she let go. "You stupid boy," she whispered. Elias closed his eyes. I know. You carried a bomb? Yes. Into a hole? Yes. She pulled back and looked at him. You always did hate easy solutions. For the first time, Elias almost smiled. Easy ones were usually traps. Behind them, the officers looked away, not from shame, from respect. 2 weeks later, Earth received the official apology. It came from the Alien Council in 7 languages, 3 legal formats, and 1 live public address. They admitted Elias had been taken without fair process. They admitted the broadcast event had violated prisoner protection laws. They admitted fear had been used as entertainment. But the apology did not repair everything. Words rarely did. Across Earth, people watched the message in silence. Some wanted revenge. Some wanted trade bans. Some wanted every alien ship pushed out of human space. On the 3rd day, Earth's Defense Assembly called Elias to speak. He did not want to go. His mother told him to go anyway. Why, he asked. Because angry people listen badly, she said. But sometimes they listen to the person who has the right to be angrier than them. So Elias went. He stood in the center of a round chamber, still wearing a plain black recovery jacket. His left hand had not fully healed. His ribs still hurt when he breathed too deeply. The assembly leader looked down at him. Captain Marr, do you believe the Alien Council's apology is enough? Elias answered simply, no. The chamber stirred. The leader leaned forward. Then what do you suggest? Elias looked around the room, at the soldiers, at the ministers, at the families of lost border crews, sitting in the upper gallery. He took his time. I suggest we do not become useful to their worst people. The room went quiet. Elias continued. The ones who planned that bomb wanted panic. They wanted aliens to fear humans. They wanted humans to hate aliens. They wanted both sides to close every door and sharpen every blade. He paused. His voice stayed low. If we do that, they win without firing again. A minister stood. With respect, Captain, they put you in chains. Yes. They mocked you. Yes. They almost killed civilians and blamed your species. Yes. Then why should Earth stay calm? Elias looked at him. Calm is not weakness. The minister had no quick reply. Elias turned slightly, facing the whole chamber. Build defenses. Demand trials. Protect our people. But do not mistake justice for hunger. His injured hand closed slowly. I know what hunger looks like. It always calls itself justice first. No one clapped. That was good. Clapping would have made it smaller. They only listened. Far away, Keeler Venn watched the speech from the rebuilt hall. He stood over a glass circle where the broken chain lock now rested. Children sat around it for a school visit. Their teacher had stopped the lesson, so everyone could watch Elias speak. One child looked up at Keeler. Did you really make fun of him? Keeler did not hide from the question. Yes. Why? Keeler looked at the glass. Because I was afraid of him, and I wanted my fear to look like wisdom. The child thought about that. Was he angry? Yes. Then why did he save you? Keeler swallowed. Because he was better than the story I had written for him. The child looked down at the broken lock. I think that means you should write better stories. Keeler gave a small, sad smile. Yes, he said. I think so too. The trials lasted 6 months. The security minister was found guilty. So were 5 officers, 2 broadcast engineers, and 3 council sponsors who had quietly funded fear shows for years. The revenge cell had existed, but it had not built the bomb alone. That truth changed everything. The sector had wanted a simple villain, a broken colony, a violent prisoner, a dangerous human. Instead, they found a machine made from ratings, politics, fear, and money. No single monster, many small hands. That was harder to face. Keeler testified for 14 hours. He did not protect himself. He named every meeting, every false report, every edited threat file, every moment he had chosen success over decency. When the court asked why, he answered with one sentence. Because Elias Marr held a burning trigger in my hands and made me understand the difference between being watched and being seen. The judges said nothing for a long time. 1 year later, Earth and the Alien Council opened the first shared emergency school. Not a military academy, not a political hall, a rescue school. Humans taught disaster response, bomb recognition, pressure control, and crowd safety. Aliens taught medicine, language mediation, and low-gravity evacuation. At the entrance, there was no statue of Elias. He refused it. Instead, there was a simple line carved into stone. Fear is loud. Duty is quiet. On opening day, Elias arrived late. He came in through a side door, hoping no one would notice. Of course, everyone noticed. Keeler was there, old in the face now, quieter in the eyes. He walked over. "You hate ceremonies," Keeler said. "Yes." "Then why come?" Elias looked through the glass wall. Inside, human and alien students were learning how to carry wounded bodies without causing more harm. One alien student kept dropping the training stretcher. A human student laughed, then showed him how to lock his hands properly. No cruelty, no stage, just learning. Elias watched them for a while. "Because this is not a ceremony," he said. "It's repair." Keeler nodded. "I never thanked you properly." "You did." "No, I thanked you as a witness, as a public man, as someone ashamed." Keeler paused. "Not as myself." Elias looked at him. Keeler lowered his head. "Thank you for not becoming what I deserved." Elias was silent. Then he said, "Don't waste it." "I won't." "You might." Keeler looked up. Elias's voice was not cruel, only honest. "So build things that remind you." Keeler looked back at the students. "I am trying." That's all anyone gets. Near sunset, Elias walked outside alone. The school stood on neutral ground between an alien city and a human landing field. For the first time, the border did not look like a wound. It looked like a seam. Something stitched, not fully healed, but held together. A group of alien children stood near the fence, watching him. One of them was brave enough to speak. "Are you Earth's most dangerous human?" Elias stopped. He looked at the child. The old title had followed him everywhere, in fear, in praise, in jokes that were no longer jokes. He knelt slowly so the child did not have to look up. "No," Elias said. The child frowned. "But the records say you are. Records like simple answers." "Then what are you?" Elias thought about it. Soldier, prisoner, survivor, weapon, symbol. None of them felt complete. Finally, he said, "Someone who learned when not to fight." The child looked disappointed. "That does not sound dangerous." Elias stood. "It is to the right people." The child did not understand yet. One day, maybe, behind Elias, the school lights turned on one by one. Soft lights, not stage lights. Not lights made to expose or shame. Lights made so people could see where to place their hands, how to stop bleeding, how to open a blocked door, how to carry someone smaller than themselves. Elias watched them glow against the evening. Then he turned toward the human field. His mother was waiting there, leaning against a transport with her arms folded. "You done saving the galaxy?" she asked. Elias walked beside her. "No," she sighed. "I was afraid you'd say that." He glanced back at the school. "I'm done doing it alone." His mother followed his gaze. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she nodded. "That's better." Above them, ships moved quietly between Earth space and alien space. No armada, no invasion, no grand victory. Only traffic. Careful, watched, imperfect traffic. But it moved, and that mattered. Years later, people still told the story of the stage. Some told it wrong. Some made Elias taller. Some made the bomb bigger. Some said he broke 10 guards with his hands. He hated those versions. The true story was quieter. A man was invited as a joke. A crowd panicked. A host chose truth. A prisoner chose duty. And two worlds, embarrassed by their own fear, learned to open one door instead of building another cage. That was the part Elias wanted remembered. Not that humans were dangerous. Everyone already knew that. But that sometimes the most dangerous thing a human could do was refuse to hate. 12 years later, the stage was only a lesson. Children visited it on school trips. Tourists stood around the glass circle and took quiet pictures. Guides told the story in careful voices. They pointed to broken chain lock on the floor and said, "This is where the old world changed." Most people listened with respect. Some listened with doubt. Time did that. It softened fear. It made pain look smaller. It turned real blood into clean history. But one child never forgot. Her name was Sava. She had been 6 years old when Elias Marr climbed out of smoke. She had watched the broadcast from under a table while her parents argued above her. She remembered the lights going red. She remembered Keeler Ven's shaking voice. She remembered the human saying, "Your real enemy was not on the stage." Now Sava was 18, and she stood inside a border control tower, wearing a junior officer's uniform that still felt too stiff around her neck. Outside the window, a human medical ship waited near the checkpoint. Its engines were quiet. Its white hull carried no weapons, only a red emergency mark. But the senior officers around Sava looked at it like it was a knife. "Deny entry," Commander Rest said. Sava turned to him. "Sir, they are carrying plague medicine. They are carrying human cargo." "Doctors," Sava said. Rest's eyes hardened. "Humans." The word was not shouted. That made it worse. Sava looked back at the ship. On the screen, a human captain waited for permission. His face was tired. Behind him, medical workers moved quickly, carrying sealed cases. On the colony below, thousands were sick. Children first, then the old, then everyone with weak lungs. The alien doctors had done all they could. The medicine they needed had been developed on Earth after a similar disease years ago, and now it sat behind a closed border. Commander Ref folded his arms. "We cannot risk a human ship landing during a biological emergency." Sava spoke carefully. "If we do not let them land, the emergency becomes a graveyard." The room went silent. Several officers turned toward her. Ref stepped close. "You are young, Officer Sava. Do not confuse emotion with command." Sava felt her face grow hot. She wanted to step back. She did not. "No, sir." "Then obey the order." Her hand hovered over the denial control. One touch, and the human ship would be forced away. One touch, and the colony below would keep dying. On the far wall of the control room hung a small plaque. Every border station had one now, a line from the old rescue school. "Fear is loud. Duty is quiet." Sava looked at it. Then she removed her hand from the denial control. "I request medical review before refusal," she said. Rest's face darkened. "Denied." "I request emergency council channel." "Denied." "I request." "You request too much." Ref reached past her toward the control. Sava did not think. She moved, not like a fighter, like someone who had practiced emergency procedure 1,000 times. She locked the console with her junior access code and pulled the physical safety key. The screen flashed yellow. "Command delay. 5 minutes." Ref stared at her. "What have you done?" Sava's heart hammered. Her voice shook, but it came out clear. "I bought time." The human captain saw the delay from his ship. His name was Noamar. He was Elias's son. He did not tell people that often. The name opened too many doors and closed too many honest conversations. But on this mission, everyone knew. Some trusted him because of it. Some hated him because of it. Noah looked at the border tower on the screen. His medic stood beside him. "They're delaying us." Noah nodded. "Yes, people are dying." "I know. Can we bypass?" Noah looked at the colony below. Storm clouds covered half the planet. Emergency lights blinked around the capital hospital. The ship could force entry. Its engines were strong enough. Its hull could take the border drones. But a forced landing by a human ship in alien space would become history's favorite poison. His father had taught him that. Sometimes the right action done the wrong way became a weapon for your enemy. "No," Noah said. The medic clenched her jaw. "So we wait." Noah looked at the countdown. "For minutes and 30 seconds. We give them a reason to choose." He opened a public channel. The tower received it. So did the colony. So did every news feed already watching the border. Noah stood in front of the camera. "This is Captain Noah Mar, the medical ship Lumen Gate. We carry treatment for the lung fever spreading below. We are unarmed. We will not force entry." Sava watched him from a control room. Ref snapped, cut the channel. "I can't," another officer said. "It's public emergency broadcast." Noah continued. "We know there is fear. We know old wounds do not close because officials sign papers. So here is our offer." He stepped aside. Behind him, human doctors place the medicine cases near the airlock. "We will transfer the medicine first by remote drone. No human personnel will step onto your soil unless requested by your doctors." The control room went quiet. Noah's voice softened. "We came to help, not to win an argument." Sava looked at Reth. The commander's face was tight. He wanted a human to be arrogant. He wanted threats. He wanted something useful. Noah gave him nothing, only restraint, and that made the room shift. One senior medic on the colony channel broke protocol. "Commander," she said, voice rough with exhaustion. "We need that medicine." Reth did not answer. Another voice joined, a father from the hospital. "My daughter is in Ward 7. Let them send it." Then another, then dozens. The border tower filled with voices, not shouting for humans, shouting for life. The 5-minute delay ended. The console unlocked. Reth stared at the screen. Sava slowly placed the safety key back on the desk. Now the choice was his. Everyone knew it. Reth looked at her with cold anger, then at the colony, then at the human ship. His hand moved. He pressed the landing permission. "Drone transfer only," he said. Sava released a breath she had not known she was holding. Outside the window, the human ship opened its lower bay. Small white drones carried sealed medicine cases through the border field. No weapons, no soldiers, only boxes. Quiet boxes crossing the line where fear had stood. The medicine worked, not like magic. Real healing was slower. Messier, some still died, but the wave broke. Children began breathing easier. Hospitals stopped turning corridors into wards. The colony's death count slowed, then stopped climbing. 3 days later, Commander Reth was removed from Border Command. Not because he had been afraid. Fear was not a crime. He was removed because he had almost made fear policy. Sava expected punishment too. Instead, she was called before the colony governor. The room was full of officials, doctors, and cameras. She hated the cameras. They reminded her of the stage. The governor looked at her. "Officer Sava, you disobeyed a direct command." "Yes, Governor. You locked the border console during an emergency." "Yes." "You could have caused a diplomatic incident." "Yes." The governor leaned back. "Why did you do it?" Sava looked at the cameras, then at the doctors who had not slept in days, then at the families standing in the back. She answered honestly, "Because I remember the story everyone likes to repeat, but few people want to obey." A murmur moved through the room. The governor's expression changed slightly. Sava continued, "The story of Elias Marr is not that humans are good. It is not that aliens are bad. It is not even that one prisoner saved a crowd." She swallowed. "It is that panic makes people easy to control, and someone has to interrupt it before it becomes law." The room stayed silent. The governor slowly nodded. "You are young." "Yes." "That does not make you wrong." Sava was not punished. She was reassigned to emergency coordination. It sounded like a small title. It was not. 1 month later, Noah Marr visited the old stage. He came alone. No uniform. No cameras. He stood over the glass circle and looked at the broken chain lock beneath it. He had seen pictures all his life, but standing there felt different. Smaller. He had imagined the hall larger, the stage higher, the lights more cruel. History always grew in the mind. Reality was quieter. A voice spoke behind him. "You look like him." Noah turned. Keeler Venn stood near the seats, older now, leaning slightly on a cane. Noah recognized him at once. "So people keep telling me." Keeler walked slowly closer. "Your father hated that too." Noah smiled faintly. "Yes." "Is he well?" Noah looked back at the glass. "He lives near the coast. Repairs boats. Pretends not to answer messages." "That sounds like peace." "For him, maybe." Keeler nodded. For a while they stood together. Two sons of old mistakes. One by blood, one by guilt. Keeler looked at the broken lock. "When I first put him on this stage, I thought danger meant violence." Noah said nothing. Keeler continued, "I was wrong. Real danger is a person who refuses the role fear gives them." Noah thought of the border tower, of Sava's shaking voice, of medicine drones crossing through silence. "I saw that this week," he said. Keeler looked at him. Noah explained. Keeler listened carefully. When the story ended, the old alien's eyes were wet. So it continued. Keeler whispered, "What did?" "The part that mattered." Years later, school guides added a new line to the lesson. After telling children about Elias and the bomb, they told them about Sava and the medicine ship. They told them that history was not something safely locked under glass. It waited at every border. in every control room, in every moment when fear sounded reasonable. Some children still asked, was Elias Mar really dangerous? The guide still answered, yes, but now they added, and so was Sava. The children always looked confused. Sava was not a soldier. She did not fight. She did not carry a bomb into darkness. She only delayed a button for 5 minutes. So the guides explained, dangerous people are not always the ones who can destroy. Sometimes they're the ones who stop destruction from becoming normal. Far away on Earth, Elias heard the story from his son. He was sitting beside the sea, fixing an old wooden boat with slow hands. Noah finished telling him everything. Elias kept sanding the wood. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he gave a small nod. Good, he said. Noah waited for more. There was no more. With Elias, there rarely was. But later that evening, Noah found his father standing at the shore, looking up at the ships moving between worlds. Not many, not enough, but more than before. Elias watched them with tired eyes. The galaxy had not become kind. No story could do that. There were still cruel leaders, still fearful crowds, still people who built stages around pain and called it safety. But there were also children who remembered, officers who delayed buttons, captains who refused to force doors, and old mistakes left under glass. So no one could pretend they had never happened. That was not victory. It was better. It was work, and work could continue. The next morning, Elias placed a small carved sign above his boat shed. Noah saw it and smiled. It had only 5 words, leave one door open, and beneath it, in smaller letters, someone afraid may still choose right.